57. He's out here getting DUI still. You know, he's not living a great life. It's definitely an interesting spectacle. You know, it's one of those things where you have an individual where all they know is fighting. Like our interaction and our disagreements is more political, is more real world, real life situations. But when you put yourself in this position and you don't know anything else but fighting, like that's all you can sort of that's what you have to go to.
Yeah.
In this situation, you have someone who failed to take accountability for their own actions, right? You know, this dude was out at the January 6th insurrection doing this, you know, he was cooing out there, right, with his little white nationalist friends. And they was like, yo, like, we need you to sit out this week. You know, he was doing commentary for LFA.
Yeah.
And in his weird, twisted mind, they were like, yo, y'all fired me. And he does this video. And again, they never even fired. They were just like, yo, sit this week out. And then he, these types of people don't know how to take responsibility. They don't know how to take their L's and move on, right? And so, as opposed to taking their, like, man, I messed up, right? They have to place the blame. And so, Patty essentially placed all of his real life issues that are going on, he put the blame on me. And again, this isn't someone who's, you know, a regular average person, right? Who can sit and we can have a conversation and like, oh, hey, man, like what happened, you know?
Right.
No, for him, it's fighting. And the idea that at 57 years old, you know, that, you know, he tells me he's a machine. Like he's texting me like now hindsight, he's probably drunk when he was texting me at like midnight and 1 in the morning. But
He's been texting you like
oh, that's
crap.
how all of this started. Like, so he's messaging me like random, like crazy hours, right? He's like, bro, like, you're Marxist, communist, fascist. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea what any of those words mean. But he's like going off, and I'm kind of just like, dude, like, go to sleep. Like, it's way past your bedtime. And then he's like, nah, we need to fight. And I was like, dude, like, I don't want to fight you. Like, can we not do this, please? You know?
Right.
And because this is someone I've been friends with for over 10 years.
Right. He cornered you, right? I mean, you guys have known
He
you know
cornered
each
me
other
for
well.
calm. Yeah, like we used to have dinner together, after fights and stuff like
Right.
that. When the promoters reached out, like, yo, like we gonna make this happen, we gonna headline y'all, give you
Nice.
some money. And I was like, well, fine. If this is what he wants, then I'll be the guy. And it makes sense just given what my I've always been this outlier within the combat sports and MMA
Yeah.
sphere. It's just what it is, you know. I've been in the right place at the right times and known the right people, but also I have these other gifts and talents that have allowed me to be in this space for
Yeah.
15 years, you know. And
Absolutely.
so it makes sense that I am fighting an MMA pioneer who's also a Jan 6 insurrectionist and white nationalist, and he wants to defend his honor and all this other dumb shit. But hey, I'll be a Huckleberry.
Like you said, you were friends, you've shared meals together, you were together for a long time. After he gets out, whatever he needs to get out on October 14th, do you think that will you be cool again? If not friends, will you be cool again? Do you
No, I
think, or
can.
is it
I mean,
over?
here's it. I draw the line with white nationalists,
Yeah.
and I get like these types of people. See, labeling is their thing, right? It's all like these people want to have the ideology of white supremacy and this white nationalist ideology, but they don't want to be called Nazis or Klansmen or white nationalists because it's all about branding. And so for me, I'm look, the community in itself, these people don't understand nuance. They like their idea of white, like racism and white. They're like, yo, you call me a Klanman, I don't have a hood and a robe on. I was like, you're not smart enough to understand this, right? So for these types of people, like there is no, like, I cut these people off instantly.
You have a prediction for how it goes, Mike?
Man, I if I'm being honest with you, I my only one objective is for him to be carried out on a stretcher, whether he's unconscious or not. I don't want him walking out on his own. Like that's my only objective. See, there's people like I love fighting from the competitive nature. I've always been an athlete,
Yeah.
I've always looked at fighting as like human chess, but this is much more than that. This is essential. Like people don't get these types of opportunities. You have to think about it. These types of fights are typically like in the streets, right, with mutual combat and things like that, which is kind of against the law in certain places. You can't just go fight Nazis. Like the whole ideology is like, yo, punch a Nazi in the face. But even if I randomly punch a Nazi in the face on the street, like there's laws against that, right?
Yep.
This is an opportunity for me as a pro-black, anti-white nationalist to punch one of these people in the face and there be no and I actually get paid for
Not
it.
get
Like
in trouble, right? Yeah, right.
and
Don't
not
not get in trouble, get paid.
this is if I'm being honest with you, like for me, I know the Punk fight was a really big fight in the MMA sphere, given the platform that it was on. But personally, given where I am currently in my life and what I'm fighting for and all the things that's going on, in a social sphere,
Yeah.
this fight means way more to me. It's not just a fight. Like this is me. And again, I'm not. I know after this, he's not gonna have a change of heart. And
Right.
man, you know what? He was right. I know that. That's not the objective. My objective is just to hurt this guy.
As easy as it used to be, I can tell you that. Takes a little more work to get back in shape, and just have to train smarter to a certain extent. But I'm actually quite pleased with where I'm at, rolling with some really good black belts, BJJ black belts, and sparring with some pretty good professional boxers, to say the least. And I feel actually really, I'm surprised how
Really?
well I do with these. Yeah, yeah. So I feel pretty good.
How would you compare it, Pat? I mean, if you look back to when you were in your, I don't know, mid-20s, 30s, I mean, what's it like? What can you do? What can't you do? What do we see? I mean, do we see 50% of the great Pat Miletich? Is it more or less? What do we see when we finally watch you fight on October 14th?
At my age, I will use the percentage needed to win the fight, and that's all I'll use.
There it is.
I'm not gonna go above that. I'll stay within myself, be smart, and honestly have fun. I think it's actually going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm sure this is something you probably thought, at least as a competitor, you'd never be back in the cage fighting, and now here we are, and you're doing the media again and going through the camp. I mean, you're doing all the stuff that I'm sure you used to do.
Yeah.
Exciting again to do something that you probably thought was out of your life at this point.
Well, I think more than anything, I have to look at the reason that everything's happening, right? And we've all been under a lot of stress over the past 3.5 to 4 years. People have been through a lot, psychologically, spiritually, physically. A lot of people have lost loved ones, lost jobs, lost businesses, had to quit jobs because of being forced to, you know, either take the experimental treatment or you can't feed your kids, and that's abusive. It's very abusive, and I really took exception to the whole thing. And I've been very outspoken because I've been very well learned about where true health comes from, and a lot of other components to this, because I've done a podcast for over a decade on a lot of subject matter that other people simply don't cover, right?
Right.
So my knowledge of the immune system is a little different than the average Joe. I made a living out of building superhumans, people that could do things that other people could not do, endurance wise, recovery wise, take massive amounts of punishment every day for 8 to 10 weeks and come back and do it again and again. It's the same components for health. For people that have so-called diseases, it's the exact same component. Building superhumans and educating people about how to become healthy, literally the same formula. So that's this, as far as the reason Mike Jackson writing the things that he did about me, and the character assassination, the financial warfare, and all the things that happen in a person-to-person basis between he and I, that's just a microcosm of what the entire nation had to endure.
Pat, because of some of the things he said about you, is this more personal than a normal fight would be, where you're obviously trying to damage the other person, but you're just trying to win a fight? Is this more than that? Is this personal for you?
It's not personal anymore. When he initially did it, yeah, I was pretty upset, to say the least. It affected my children. That's something that, do anything you want to me, but when you affect my kids' lives, now we've got a problem. Now we've got a pretty severe problem, and and there has to be some retribution for that. Do I hate Mike Jackson? No. Will I pull his arm off? Depends on my mood.
Do you think? Look, he's 38 years old. He's younger. You comparing his career to yours, obviously, it's not in. They're not in the same league. Is this going to be easy for you, Pat, or do you suspect that this is going to be some sort of slug 'em out fight, and you're going to be pushed?
Obviously he's more of a kickboxer than anything. So if I choose to stand up with him, which I may, and very likely will for a while, it might be a little bit tougher. But I mean, I could take him down at will. And if I wanted to be compassionate, take him down and choke him really quick. That's probably an option, to be honest with you.
Do you feel, as we sit here right now and we're, a few weeks before, do you feel like you're going to be compassionate, or is compassion going to be lacking on that day?
Well, it depends on how tough the weight cut is.
So if it's tougher, does the compassion go down by the is harder as it is to make the weight?
Well, that's the thing is, it's weird that the trend in society, even people in the UFC, are missing weight left and right.
Yeah.
And I've never deemed that even remotely. It's not allowed. And none of my fighters ever missed weight. I've never missed weight since. Gosh, I started cutting weight in 6th grade. I was in middle school and have never missed weight. I've had some really tough weight cuts, to say the least, and I'm sure that this one in my 50s won't be necessarily the easiest one I've ever had.
Is this a one-time thing, or are you back in some capacity now? Might we see you fight again after October 14th against Mike?
I have no desire. I mean, I didn't have any desire to fight 2.5 years ago with my good friend Michael Nunn, who was the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world. We did that together 2.5 years ago during the lockdowns to bring citizens out, to educate them that if citizens so choose to, they can take their freedom back at any time they want. So Mike and I did that to unite our community, bring people out from all backgrounds. And that was a very successful, we had 5,000 people come out in the middle of a lockdown. It was the only athletic event that I know of on the planet at that time. And so it's the reason, it's the purpose. It's not about Mike Jackson and I. It's really about what's going on in America, and that Americans ultimately, even though I'm fighting Mike Jackson, my whole message is Americans need to stop looking at their neighbor like the enemy and understand we're being divided for a reason.
Last thing for you, Pat, and thank you very much for your time. Any message that you would send to Mike 2.5 weeks or so out from fight night?
Get real good at head movement.